Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitical Trends, where truth matters. Excited to be with you on this new week here. Hope you had a relaxing and a good weekend, and you are off to a new start for the new week. So, I'm going to be talking about India and the decision that was made in Washington regarding the cancellation of the trade talk with India. Is India holding the end of the stick, economically speaking? Or should India now be really begging China for help? So this is the analysis I'm going to be providing you some insights, and I'm also going to touch on the military dimension regarding what's going on between India and Pakistan. So we are in for a great show. But first, as always, I got to say hi to our wonderful community. Land grabbing India, good to see you. That's an interesting screen name. So Lane 8532, good to see you. Day Abaran, good to see you. Okay, mediation never end. I can read that name there. So Taiwan Still, good to see you as always. Side Heart, good to see you in the chat. So Taiwan, by the way, Arlene Chambers, good to see you. If you guys notice any bot or whatever, let me know and I will remove that from the chat. So before I'll get into all this, let me get into some housekeeping items. Remember to join me tonight for my conversation with, as a matter of fact, with Einar Tangen and Warwick Pao. We will be touching on India among other topics. So don't miss this conversation. We're going to be having it at 8 p.m. This evening here. Second one is my upcoming interview with Melissa Park, which is scheduled for the 20th, which is Wednesday at 12:15 Central Standard Time. I look forward to this conversation with Melissa, and given the work her organization has been doing for the last few years regarding nuclear disarmament. So, regarding Parveen, Parveen will not be able to make it. We have some schedules that's not going to work, so we're going to hold off on having Parveen Shawnee till I come back from my Asia trip, and I'll have him back on the channel. And of course, we'll have our conversation on the weekend with none other than Kalza. So don't miss on the weekend. So. There is an incident that happened regarding the channel. I need to bring you to your attention, and to me, because it's all about transparency, and you know me where I stand on this. So I'm going to share a screen with you because I want you to be made aware of this. This is a comment by someone who wrote, David's credibility sinks to a new low. He began on a political platform of, I don't accept advertising dollars, so I can tell it like it is. You know me, I don't sugarcoat it. Then he quietly slipped into breaking his own rule. Now he is sunk to promoting the purely speculative. It's fascinating to watch the flexibility of YouTubers' values. End of quote. Here is my response, because you need to see what's going on. While you are entitled to expressing your opinion, I disagree with your assertion. First, you are misrepresenting my arguments. I don't recall saying I don't accept advertising dollars, so I can tell it like it is, as you suggested. What I said, however, is that I will not allow anyone or entity who wants to support the channel to dictate the terms to me. You seem to be confused about that. While I agree to provide my geopolitical analysis to any company that is willing to advertise on my channel, I make it clear that I will not allow it to dictate to me what to say or not to say. Second, it's a business decision. After all, talk is cheap. Put your money where your mouth is. I don't recall you ever supporting the channel. So stop this nonsense, because you are insulting our inquisitive community, and your weak arguments reflect very bad on you. No further comments is warranted. So I just wanted to share this with you to let you guys know where things are. I'm all about transparency here. I never said I will not do advertisements, but I made it clear that I will not allow anyone, I don't care who is, to dictate to me what to say or what to share with the community and so forth. So this individual or entity or whomever that is seems to be very, very confused. And thank you, by the way, for the support on the video that I did for the company DFI Technologies that asked me to do the analysis for them about this one. To those who have missed the link to the video or didn't watch it, I'm sharing the link with you on the chat box. Let's get into our topic. And here is the key question for you. And the key question is India screwed economically? Yes or no? What do you guys think? And I'd like to have your, and please don't react emotionally. We all know how India is, but let's be pragmatic. In your opinion, is India screwed economically speaking, given the decision made by Donald Trump to cancel the trade negotiations till further notice? So let me see your answer here. Taiwan, Canada, what is Canada Dry, you say yes. Sang, you say yes. Ms. or House, you say kind of. Locke, 970, good to see you, Locke. You say yes. Alistalokin, of course. India is cooked. So Lane 8532 says, so most of you agree with this assessment. I agree as well. It's because now India finds itself really locked in with no so-called great allies or friends, because India was always on both sides of the fence. So here is what it looks like is happening, that now Donald Trump decided to cancel trade talk with New Delhi till further notice. In other words, what will India do now? And the even more prevalent question is, who will India turn to? I am still not in favor of China opening the doors wide open for India, because you can't trust India. When I say India, I'm referring to the Indian government. And this is why I looked at it like a final nail on the Indian coffins, economically speaking. So yes, India can bounce back, but it's going to take a lot of work. So, well, it's been reported in Washington that the visit of the U.S. trade negotiators to New Delhi, which, by the way, was scheduled on the 25th through the 29th of this month, next week, from Monday through Thursday, has been canceled now. And of course, the Washington or the Trump administration didn't want to give any reason, and they will not give a reason, because to them, it won't matter whether India gets it or not. They don't care. And this will now postpone these talks, which, by the way, were proposed regarding the agreement between India and the U.S. Because now is dashing any hopes India might have had regarding the possibilities of working out a deal with the United States. So before August 27th. You know why? August 27th is the deadline by which the additional tariffs on Indian goods is going to take effect. Even the source of the info in Washington indicated that the current round of negotiations on the proposed bilateral sort of trade agreement is going to be postponed now, and the date has not been determined. When you read the message into all this, the message is this: we will dictate to you, India, when we are willing to sit down and have a conversation with you. In other words, we make the call. India has no say into all this. So even the U.S. embassy in New Delhi confirmed that it had no further information regarding the trade and tariff talks. And I will confirm something like this, because here is the thing. As one who worked inside the system and understand, sometimes even the ambassador of the U.S. in whatever parts of the world might not be aware of what's going on if the decision was made internally inside the White House. He or she might be made aware of it later on. And this one, I concur with the statements about the US Embassy in New Delhi, confirming that it has no idea about this further information regarding the India and US trade. So just for those who might not know, is that Donald Trump imposed the additional 25% tariffs on Indian goods. And his argument for this, also citing that New Delhi is continuing to buy the Russian oil. So, which is, by the way, that was one of the point of friction that has sharply escalated tensions between the United States and India. But here is what I found very interesting, is that Donald Trump, he said, oh, it's okay for China now to buy the Russian oil. First of all, I made a comment on this on X, and I was speaking so fast that the AI misspelled the word. I meant to say dictate, and it came up as dedicate. So anyway, to me, the point is, who Trump thinks he is to dictate to other countries, especially like China, when to buy oil from Russia and when not to buy oil from Russia. That's ridiculous. While Trump can get away with that with India, it's not going to work with China. But at the same time, I am seeing the double standards of Donald Trump regarding saying to India, no, you can't buy the Russian oil, but saying to the Chinese, sure, you can buy the Russian oil. And that's, to me, it's a double standard. Let's just be fair and objective about this one. So the new additional tariffs, the import tariffs, as I said, that will enter into effect on August 27th, which will be next Wednesday. Those will raise the duties on some of India's exports to up to 50%, which will be, by the way, among the highest duties imposed on any US trading partners. That just tells you the story as to how we, meaning we the government, US government, views India, how it perceives India. It's just our servant per se. That's the one that does our bidding in whatever we want them to do. Look at no further than Quads as an example. So the trade talks between New Delhi and Washington now collapsed. And here is the interesting thing. They collapsed after 5 rounds of talks, negotiating. And all this centered on one particular issue. And that issue is, of course, the import of India's energy from Russia. But there is one other very sticking point. And this one has to do with the disagreements over opening up India's large agricultural and dairy sectors. So, because you all know the farmers in India are not going to like that, because the Indian economy is not doing well, and of the growth has been slowed, at least based on the recent data coming out of think tanks outside India. Of course, India is saying its economy is going up and everything is fine. It is not. This is why I don't quite get it, why the media in India is lying to their own citizens, giving them a false impression that India is going to now be sort of cooperating and coordinating with the Chinese and all that. Hold on a second. What makes us think that China is going to trust India? And it's legitimate questions. It has nothing to do with thinking negatively about India or supporting China. No. It has to do with the facts on the ground. So, I mean, I'm just being objective here, like I always do. Here is what's interesting also, statements coming out of the Indian Foreign Ministry, which I see the logic of their argument. So here's the thing. It's just they are saying that New Delhi is being unfair, and I quote, New Delhi is being unfairly targeted regarding its purchase of Russian oil, while the United States and the European Union continue to purchase goods from Russia, end of quote. They are correct in this statement. The Indian Foreign Ministry is correct on this. And to me, that's like double standards. And again, what do you expect from the American government? We say one thing and do another. So you give credit where credit is due, and you be fair in the assessment. So the thing is that the United States sort of it's continuing to pressure India to hold the purchase of Russian oil in an effort to pressure Moscow to end the war in Ukraine. Well, wait a minute. If you are to say this argument, why aren't you saying the same about allowing China to purchase Russian oil? You can just see. And again, it's just for us, we want to be objective here. So, and these discussions also came up during the recent talks between Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska. It came up in a conversation. This is why after Donald Trump came back, flew back rather to Washington, he issued a statement by saying, you know what, China can buy oil from Russia. Well, wait a minute, Donald Trump, you're not saying this because you care for China. You're saying this because you don't have the cards. China does. China has the upper hand. This is the reason why. And is realizing, Donald Trump is realizing there is no win against China because Trump is coming to grip with reality as we speak. This is again where that difference is. It's not because he cares. No. Donald Trump doesn't care. So the other thing is that the Prime Minister of India, Modi, stated during a recent speech he delivered about 4 days ago or so on the occasion of the Independence Day celebrations. He stated that his country, and I quote here, India seeks to achieve self-sufficiency, particularly in the energy sector, despite being one of the world's largest oil importers. End of quote. This is again, no offense to Modi, when I realize how much he lacks as far as understanding the harsh reality that India will not be able to be self-sufficient regarding energy for a simple reason. India doesn't have energy resources. So I don't quite understand where Modi or whomever is advising him or whomever wrote the speech for him to put something like this. But this is again where the Indian citizens are being misled. And of course, Modi will have to say this kind of narratives because of the upcoming elections. Remember, the Hinduism, nationalism, and the mindset is geared towards pushing this kind of narrative. And this is not going to be, it's not going to bode well for the average Indian citizens because the economic conditions still are very, very bad. Simple as that. So, and of course, when the Indian Foreign Ministry criticized the United States and the European Union by saying, well, it looks like the US is deliberately restricting us over purchasing the Russian oil, even though they trade extensively with Russia, which is true. If you only know what we, the United States, import from Russia, and I'm going to share with you, we import uranium, okay? We import hexafluoride, which we use for our nuclear energy sector. We also import palladium, fertilizer, and chemicals as of today. So once again, we got to be fair. The Foreign Ministry of India is right on this assessment. That's kind of a double standard. But the Foreign Ministry of India refrained from stating that, well, by the way, we are also the ones selling oil to Europe at 4 or 5 times the price. So you can't be cherry picking. You put it all on the table and let people decide for themselves. And this is where I see the double standards regarding India. Liking this video so far? Don't just be a watcher. Go ahead and hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And don't forget to tap the bell so you will not miss any of my videos or live streams. This way, you will be supporting a channel that stands for the truth and objective reporting. The choice is yours. Thanks for your support. Indeed, I do appreciate your support, and please, please, please subscribe if you have not done so already. Let's move on to now the big question. The big question, or the big elephant in a room, and this has to do with now how we're going to assess the future of India-China relations. Because you can't ignore this. You cannot, for whatever reason. And I'm going to share one particular picture to put this in perspective for you. This is the India-China borders. That's the first thing that comes to mind. You're going to have to really think about this one moving forward. Well, it's because now what the US is doing to India, and so to some other countries, but it's not going to be able to do it to China anyway. It's because this exposes now the United States some sort of instinct, hegemonic instinct and dominance agenda, because that's what we're doing with India. We say we dictate in the terms of India. We're going to see how India is going to move, but we all know how it is. India is in no possession. You can assume India is going to do what China is doing, because India does not have the leverage. China does. But the idea of why that is, because these tensions between the US and India also reflects the intentions of the United States to maintain its dominance and to subordinate India to sort of serve US interests, and particularly in one particular issue. And that issue is so-called containment of China, which is ridiculous anyway. I've argued so many times that era, or even that thinking of containing China, it's ludicrous. The US might have got away with it, let's say 30 years ago. Today is too late. You can't. There is no force that's going to contain China. You just can't. Why? Because the reality suggests otherwise. And this is exactly where you need to put and place the tensions between the US and India within this context of India serving our interests, not India's interest, but our India. There are those analysts who argue, well, you know what? India should seize the moment now to sort of reassess or reconsider. Reconsider what? Its foreign policy? India doesn't have a foreign policy. So what are they going to be considering? They, meaning India, going to reconsider now pivoting towards China. I'm one of those analysts who argue for China to be very cautious moving forward. Mark my word on this. You know, I'm going to share something with you here. I was sometimes during my time in Washington taking part into how we will convince a particular country to shift its policy. You know, you kind of facilitate the conversation and all that. The moment you give them the carrots, this is exactly what my fear is. So China will have to be very careful, because to India is going to be thinking about, we have nothing left. The only things left for us is our giant and powerful neighbor and prosperous neighbor, China. So it behooves us to cooperate with China. And here is where I see the danger. The danger that I see is that if India will take advantage of saying to the Chinese, you know what, we're going to cooperate with you bilaterally and through other means, like, for example, a framework of BRICS, since China is in BRICS, like, for example, SCO or the RIC, the Regional Incorporated Cooperation, I think. I forget the acronyms for it, the RIC. So that's, to me, where the concern is. China will be very, very, very careful, because here is what's going to happen, in my opinion, the way I see it. What India's going to do is going to now really, through its media outlets inside, propagate the concept of, let's do China India plus model. Meaning what? in simply, let's support the global South. This is what India is going to be saying. But do you remember when it was India itself that has objected to when China wanted to introduce the new currency or financial mechanisms by which the bloc and the entire global South can transact? It was India that objected it. And this is where I see that double standard. So China will have to be very, very careful, because what India is going to be saying, and I did a video about a year ago, if I recall, if my memory serves me well, and I said, be careful about the statements coming out of New Delhi stating that India now speaks for global South. India does not speak for global South and cannot speak for global South. So, because what India is going to want to do, it's going to want to provide or push for this narrative for one reason, is for it to tap into or even unlock some sort of geopolitical or economic interest or advantage that will serve India, not the bilateral relations between India and China or the global South. This is why I had a chance to read a very, very great article, and I'm going to share the link with you through CGTN. Let me share it with you guys. So this way you can read on it, or you can read it later on to really further your knowledge about understanding these dynamics. Very, very well articulated article. And you're going to have to think in terms of what the US is doing to India. India should have expected that, since the US, especially under Donald Trump, or any other president for that matter, it's just Trump is more open about it. Transactional alliance, no more, no less. We are using India to serve our interest. It's straightforward. Look now what we are doing. We are convincing India to go ahead and conduct military training with the Philippines, to the point we are telling indirectly for the Indian to go ahead and sell missiles to the Philippines. How ludicrous that is. And you all know what it means. You all know what it means moving forward. Because now India wanted to push back against the US by refusing to purchase arms from the United States. Well, India has another alternative, which is Russia. But on the other hand, during the recent conflict between Pakistan and India, Pakistan proved that it has the upper hand. And I'm going to be touching on the military aspect because it's part of this conversation. Suffice it to say, the United States, so many administrations, at least from what I remembered back in early 90s, all the way from back then, it's always been the narrative inside Washington is that we're going to prepossession India to serve our interest and as a counterweight to China. Why? Because we started to notice the digression of our influence in the Indo-Pacific. Where is another country to use for that objective if it's not for India? Of course, we have South Korea, we have Philippines, we have Japan, which those are, to me, it's like sovereign on papers. India is another one. India might be slightly different, but it's no different. When we decided to use India as a counterweight against China via entities like Quad and some other mechanisms, we're finding out. And this is why I'm saying, as I said earlier, India is end up holding the end of the stick, because now it finds itself. It is a member in every organization that is aimed at countering and containing China. So you ask yourself, whomever is advising Modi, why would you want to go that route? And I've been arguing for so long. India's prosperity lies with cooperating with China. But till there is an honest discussion on part of the Indian government, China should be cautious. That's the way, as I see it. So, and this, to me, what these tensions shows, it shows how the relationship between the United States and India is one-sided. And one-sided in favor of whom? India? No, in favor of the United States. And that's, in my opinion, that's not how a partnership works. We use the term partnership. What? Well, we don't view any other country as a partner. Now, there is one country we think of it as a partner. That's in UK. Well, that's historical ties and so forth, but intelligence also. Australia to a degree, but Australia will only use it as part of New Zealand also for the Five Eyes, no more, no less. But for India, no, it's always one-sided. And this is now became evident when we want to have the agricultural aspects in India, and also pressuring India not to purchase oil from Russia. Well, that's the double standard. So consider that the deficits, okay, the deficits India has with the United States, which is about 40 to my 45, 46, somewhere around that, $46 billion, give or take. So, and now India made it clear, we are not going to sort of allow you, the United States, to some of our private sectors or sensitive sectors, if I may use the term. Even though you and I know Indian markets, it's you got the idea. Are you going to be producing high chips in India? No. You look at even Apple had to pull out of India because of the quality aspects of it. And this, you're going to now have to think in terms of what lies ahead moving forward. This so-called, even though I don't give it the exact terminology of an alliance. To me, it's not an alliance. I will look at the Russia-China alliance. That is a strong one, and it's moving forward. I will look at some other countries, but for the U.S. and India alliance, no, I won't place it at that level. That's just the way I see it. So, but nonetheless, as an analyst, I have to ask the question: what is going to do to this so-called alliance? Is this now a risk that the U.S. is running into using India as a pawn for its U.S. and China rivalry? That's a question worth asking, because you have to understand that was always the objective, and not just about India, about all the countries in that part of the world. And I'm talking from Japan to South Korea to Australia, New Zealand, Philippines, you name it. I will not include as much as like in India, or I won't even compare it to the likes of Singapore, the likes of Indonesia, Malaysia. They took stand. Vietnam, Cambodia, they took stand. They took stand because they saw the implications of getting involved in economic ventures with China. This is where I see the difference. India is not in that position. So, and this is where you're going to have to think in terms what lies ahead forward, especially now for India. Because India now, it's going to be spewing that narrative. Oh, we're going to cooperate with China. We're going to amend our ties or whatever. Yeah, because you, Modi in this case, know and understand that if you do that, that's your path to a strategic autonomy, to economic prosperity, to the lifting of the current conditions of an average Indian citizen. That concept of live and let live. And also this will allow the regional countries in the region, the likes of Bhutan, the likes of Nepal, the likes of Bangladesh, and even Sri Lanka, to move forward. But India, I just don't see it, because India is going to only be pushing that narrative of, oh, we want to cooperate with China for the sake of Global South. No. Or they're going to argue, we're going to cooperate with China for the sake of multipolar order. No. Only yesterday, you allowed yourself, India that is, to be used as a counterweight to China. When Modi understood, but Modi cannot sorry to say this, No offense to him as a human being, but his capabilities, intellectual one that is, to absorb the complexities of geopolitics is beyond his ability. Say it straightforward. Because that is not the way you conduct foreign policy. You can't be flip-flopping. Today you're in this organization or bloc, and tomorrow you join this, and all of them aim at one thing: is to it's to counterweigh China's progress. Because no matter how you look at it, the United States now it's not coming to grip with it yet, but it's becoming clear. You cannot slow down the Chinese progress. I have very, very, very interesting questions I'm going to be asking my two guests tonight, Warwick Bao and Aina Tangen, regarding this aspect, from scientific field sector to the economic to the geopolitical aspects. So, but India will be in no possession. We're going to be talking about India as well. So, and this is why I am kind of being cautious moving forward. Why? It's because there were reports inside India, in New Delhi, suggesting that, oh, India is going to be now negotiating with China the cross-border issues and so forth. Hold on a second. I look at it, it's too early for that. There are other basic issues needs to be addressed first before you move into any of this. And of course, we all understand what's going on across the high altitude in Himalayan borders crossings between the two neighbors. So, but also we also understand how India is treating the neighbors there, like Bhutan, like Sri Lanka, like Bangladesh and Nepal. Nepal, I'm starting to get a feel for it's starting to move in the right direction, far away from India. It's going to take a while. The next country that I believe needs to do this is Bangladesh first. Once, what's her name? The corrupted Hasina is extradited to stand trial for corruption. And she ought to stand trial. India should not be providing her protection. If India wants to do the right thing, let's start with the basics. Because what Sheikh Hasina did is the one that authorizes deadly force against demonstrators in Dhaka. So it is the right of the Bangladeshi people to hold her accountable. The other country is Bhutan. And once again, it's because if India wanted to really amend the relations with China, that's going to have to also reconsider its relations with its neighbor and step away from that mindset of dominance and not allowing other countries to trade with whomever they want. I'm learning that India is preventing these neighbors from entering into any discussions, economic or otherwise, with any other countries in the region, especially in Southeast Asia. We're not even talking China here. However, suffice it to say, and I'm not denying this, that if India and China enter into an honest talks regarding resolving the border issue, this resumption of talks is going to carry very, very significant sort of symbol. It will be symbolic. But again, I will always cautious about India flipping, because I've seen it before. And I am a student of history. So I've seen how India flipped quickly. So to those who've been arguing inside India that, oh, the powerful India and China has been competing for strategic influence in Southeast Asia. First of all, India is not powerful. Let's just state the facts as they are. There is no comparison between China and India, economically, militarily, and otherwise. So let's clear that up. Second thing, the influence, it's not going to come from India. It's going to come from China. Why? Because China has the leverage. And again, I'm stating the facts. Economically speaking, go to Southeast Asia and ask those countries, Go to ASEAN and ask them, would you want to trade with China? Would you want to trade with India? And the answer is simple. So, but of course, where the conversions right now is the idea that the global trade, the tensions, the geopolitical turmoil that's going, and also the Trump's ill-conceived tariff policies, that's what's pushing not only India and China, but other countries as well, towards now figuring out their relationship with other neighbor countries. And that's, again, this is where I get very concerned when you start to have some misleading informations about coming out of India. And I wanted to protect our community. This is why if I see something that will mislead our community in thinking otherwise, I will step in. And this is, again, when I read and I read articles and I read analyses coming out of India, yeah, I read from all. When they are arguing that, oh, Modi will visit China for the first time in a decade, indicating improvement of relationship between the two countries. No. First of all, Modi is going to China to attend the SCO. Those are two separate things. It's very different when you go to attend a conference, a summit, whatever, versus when you go specifically to visit a head of state because of an invitation. India has never been invited to visit China. Let's just put that on the table. And I like to just make sure the community understands where things are. And the last point I want to address on this, it has to do with whether the tensions between India and Pakistan are moving forward. Yeah, tensions. And I almost feel asking a question. Are we looking at another military conflict between India and Pakistan? It's because when I read the statements and read the press releases from Asim Munir is the Army Chief Field Marshal, which, by the way, that position, it's not only in a military setting, but also in a political setting within the structure of the Pakistani government. So, here is what I found interesting, and I don't know if I had a picture of General Asim. I don't, but anyway, we'll move on. Here is what I found interesting. The Asim Munir, he was in the United States about for a second time, about a month and a half or so. And the reason he came over, you know why he came over? Not about the White House. He came about to attend the Central Command change in command that took place. And that was, by the way, his second trip to the United States in less than 2 months. If that doesn't tell you something, then you are missing the point. This is the reason why this is Admiral Cooper. This is General Corella. He used to be the commanding officer of the Central Command. I used to fall under Central Command when I was in the military. That is the reason why General Asim Munir was here. So, but here is the interesting thing. Even during that, he was able to squeeze a meeting or lunch with Donald Trump at the White House. And what's even more interesting about all this, you know what's interesting? Is that this is the first time, the first time in the history that a US president has welcomed a military leader from Pakistan without senior civilian official attending as well. It tells you where things are going. This is now what prompted me to say, I can now see why Asim Munir has been releasing certain statements. Like, for example, if the Pakistan will use a nuke, we taking half of the world down with us. Usually, statement, you don't say something like this, but it makes me just wonder. Now I understand. No. Because Donald Trump has praised General Munir for his role. For his role in preventing an escalation of the conflict between India and Pakistan. This is what Donald Trump said, and I quote, "The reason I had him here," meaning Donald Trump had General Munir at the White House, Asim Munir. "The reason I had him here was I wanted to thank him for not going into the war and ending it." End of quote. It shows you why Asim Munir is saying what he's saying. I have to disagree with General Asim Munir for nominating Donald Trump for Nobel Peace Prize. You got to be out of your mind. And I will say this, even to General Asim Munir, respectfully, to nominate Donald Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize is ludicrous. He doesn't deserve it. No American president deserves Nobel Peace Prize. Even I know, what's his name? Obama took one. He doesn't deserve it. It's nonsense. So I was surprised that Asim Munir will nominate Donald Trump for Nobel Peace Prize. It's nonsense. It is nonsense. However, suffice it to say that General Asim Munir is thinking strategically. And here is a reason why, and I'm going to conclude with this. Here is a reason why. Because Asim Munir, the field marshal or the army field marshal of Pakistan, he's noticing some sort of the dangerous flashpoints that is unfolding regarding South Asia. Why? It's because Pakistan, through his statements, is signaling a strategic shift. That is the reason why, against India. Because India is in a weak position. Remember, Donald Trump turned on India. India is left alone. What do you think? Are Russians going to send some advanced missile systems? Hell no, they were not. As a matter of fact, the Russians refused to even sell some advanced fighter jets. The US refused to sell F-35s, even though India is saying, no, we're not going to buy American weapons. We shall see. When you start to see China is arming Pakistan. So, and this is why when you think about Asim Munir as a key power center now in Islamabad, those statements are of a strategic importance. And that's why he is eyeing the eastern flank of India. Why eastern flank, you may ask? Is because what's coming up in Bangladesh. Because of the court is asking, and the new government in Bangladesh is going a different direction that is independent from India. Of course, Indian intelligence service is going to get into Bangladesh. Mark my word on that. But Bangladesh is taking the right steps towards that. And this is why I am reading between the lines regarding statements of General Asim Munir. Because here is when he stated, and I quote, "We will start from the east, suggesting a possible front via India-Bangladesh corridor, with Dhaka's new regime reportedly softening towards Pakistan." End of quote. This should sort of really spells out for you guys where things are headed and why really India is in a bad spot right now. And it's the only savior for it is China. Unless the US will give India a carrot to do whatever we ask them, and the Indian will do it. Knowing what I know, India will agree to that. I just don't see. So it's because when you think about now, you have some old channels between Bangladesh and Pakistan are being some sort of reactivated. So this is why India went ahead and placed its forces on alert in Assam. That's not for no reason. No. You know, because you got to remember, Asim's Munir, General Asim Munir's sort of relations with the US is getting stronger. So, and that relations is only going to deepen, at least for the remaining tenure of Donald Trump in office. And this is why India will be faced with countering multi-fronts. because India will not be able to do it. So that is, again, where you see this dynamics. And this is why the narrative coming out of New Delhi as, oh, Modi is going to meet with President Xi Jinping and the cooperation, it's flat out lie. It just hypes to sort of prepossession India into that. Modi is in no possession to really say anything whatsoever. And we're gonna, it's remain to be seen how things is gonna move forward. And I am gonna be detailing more with my guest this afternoon. So, but for now, suffice it to say that General Asim Munir is really eyeing the eastern part, pending what's going to be taking place in Dhaka, in Bangladesh, and with the regime change. Once this corrupted Sheikh Hasina is extradited, even though you and I know India might not do it, which is shame. If this India stands for the rule of law, as they say, then extradite the person. This is with the assumption they have an extradition treaty between the two. We don't just, if there is no treaty, then be it. That's how it's going to be. So anyway, that's all I have to share with you. I want to give you an update regarding where we are regarding my upcoming Asia trip. It was a major donation by a donor. So I was very, very, very generous. I didn't get the authorization to disclose the full name. All I'm going to say, and his name is John. John was so generous. So I want to say thank you so much for your support for my upcoming Asia trip. There is also, and as I'm looking at the screen right now, and there is a donation from, let me see, and I'm going to give credit to the person here, from, Stephen Chang, an avid supporter of the channel, and has been supporting the trip for my upcoming trip to Asia, which, by the way, I am going to be leaving by the end of the month. So you saw where we are. We didn't even cross 50% yet. I will greatly appreciate if you are willing to do so. This, again, to my point earlier about the comment from the person that I kind of have no credibility, whatever. No. It's the community that is funding this trip. It's not an entity. It's not a government. It's the community. So, and this is why, let me just put the link for you. If you are willing to support this upcoming trip, I'm going to put it in the chat box. Then we'll just go from there. I'm going to create some link. I know Buy Me Coffee sent me a way of doing this, and technically I couldn't do it. So I'm going to figure it out and share it with you. I'm also sharing the link with you for you to support the channel. To those who continue to support channel, I'm very, very grateful to you. To all the YouTube supporter and channels, I'm very, very grateful. Members, that is, I'm very, very grateful for your continued support. So, and also remember, I do speaking engagements. I'm going to share the link with you for my speaking if you're ever interested or know somebody who might be interested in having me speak on a geopolitical matter. So I look forward to seeing you. I probably, of course, at 8 o'clock. Remember to join me tonight for my conversation with Aina Tengen and Warwick Bao. Will be an interesting, we will be going live from Beijing and Brisbane in Australia. So I look forward to that conversation. So wish you good day, good afternoon, good evening, whatever part of the world you're in. And I look forward to seeing you next time. As always, remember, geopolitics impact your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, bye-bye.